Howdy, and welcome to Young Earth Today 2032. Yes, we can drop deep time. So this episode is brought to you by Sammy the Sanctified Soccer Ball. And please check out our website, which is just TotalYouth.us, TotalYouth.us. And check out our books, our videos, our podcasts, and such. So, one quick reminder. Don't forget to vote for Squatch. And another one is we're going to talk about Shapiro's Origins, about the origin of life. It's endorsed by Isaac Asimov. Pretty cool book. And then we're going to talk about the anti-evolutionist Hilaire Belloc, who died in 1953. He responded to H.G. Wells and his outline of history, and then H.G. Wells wrote back and critiqued Belloc. Now, you should do our research to find out about Young Earth Science there, and notice my Cambrian symbol. So even the trilobites know about the Young Earth. So do a little research. You never know what you might find. Here's something I found wrapped at the thrift store. And I used to work for somebody rich in Fort Worth, and I got to hear him in person. It was really, really great. But notice what is inside. Isn't that something? A signature, or at least his initials. So, what animal does go moo-ski? Well, a moss cow. Thank you very much. So, speaking of kinds of animals, be sure to go to TotalYouth.us and get my biological essentialism. It has to do with kinds of animals and plants. But animals make a cool cover, so please check that out. TotalYouth.us. Now, we have the recent evidence of looking for evidence on the cover of Science, and you see some scientists are looking one way, some scientists are looking the other. This is the October 2024, the very latest issue of Science. So notice they're looking in two different directions. But maybe they need to be looking right at you. See, they're not looking that way. So no wonder they can't find the evidence for Young Earth Science, and maybe they ought to check out my website, TotalYouth.us. So if only they would do that, they'd be on the right track. But let's take a jaunt into the evidence for, yes, Young Earth Science, that history and science both point to a youthful world. First of all, we're going to go to Qwant, Q-W-A-N-T, and the very first item is pro-yes. That's yes, Young Earth Science. Now what about Bing? Go to the deep search option and put it in like this: Young Earth Science in quote plus the word definition. So Young Earth Science in quotations and then the word definition, and you'll find some interesting stuff. Let's go to Yandex. Well, it actually has 4 references to my work, which is pretty cool. Yep, yep.com, yep. Has some good stuff, a lot more fair than a lot of the other alternatives. Pre-search, P-R-E, then search.com actually is really, really neat. And in addition to that, on the pre-search, my book, Yes, Young Earth Science, actually appears twice. So thank you so much for doing that. And Yes, Virginia, the acronym Yes, it's right there on the poster there. Yes means Young Earth Science. All acronyms agrees. Look it up, allacronyms.com. So a classic argument has to do with the magnets and the magnetic field of the Earth. And it has been well understood that 5% per decade is, per century, is the decay of the Earth's magnetic field. But an article in Forbes from the Swarm satellite system, that's Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, has it at 5%, like I said earlier, per decade. So it went from century per decade. Well, if it's decaying that fast, just maybe, that would seem to point to a recent origin of the Earth. Now, Robert Shapiro, in his skeptical book here, see it says A Skeptic's Guide to the Creation of Life on Earth. So if the evolutionists can't even explain the origin of life, of course, James Tour has done great work in this area. If they haven't got to first base, why do we let the evolutionists get a home run, huh? So on pages 15 and 16, he talks about the Eskimos' creation story. Well, there's also flood stories. The Eskimos, the Aleuts, the Yupiks, the other groups, Inuits, they all have these flood stories, but around the world there's all these different flood stories. So that points to a global flood. And even, well, it meant 2010, William Dembski even admits to the global flood. So even Bill Dembski, the ID guy that's intelligent design, knows there is a global flood. So pretty cool. Not just me. I'm not the only one. All right. So if we look now, a word from our sponsor. Remember the 5 pillars of evolution. The 5 pillars of evolution. Well, one is, of course, to go to the Galapagos Islands and say hi to the finches. And I don't quite have the finches with me today, but I do have some coins here, and that's the 5, 10, and the 25-piece coins from Ecuador. That's right. And Galapagos is a province of Ecuador. So be sure to book your trip to Galapagos Islands today. Now back to our show. So back at Shapiro's book, if we go to page 81, he says this: the accumulation of sediments served as an index of time in these estimates. So where do we get these millions of years? Well, the thing is each little layer happened rapidly, and if we go to the Grand Canyon, they're all catastrophically formed, but yet the time gaps, are they really there? Look up paraconformity, maybe they're not there. So basically the whole sequence was part of one great global cataclysm, but that's consistent with the global flood traditions, which would say, yes, Virginia, there was a global flood. So that was published in 1986, and this is Derek Ager, The New Catastrophism. He was the president of the British Geological Association. Now, his original book on catastrophism actually came out in 1973. And of course, Mount St. Helens blew up in 1980, and in the early 1980s, the idea that a big rock from space came and smashed on the Earth and killed a lot of the dinosaurs, that was well understood. So that was pro-catastrophism. So I would say that Shapiro did not do his homework. Well, what else does he have to push that old Earth idea? Well, he has more. So on page 84, he says, not only the discovery of radioactivity demolished the basis of Kelvin's calculations concerning the Earth's age, and he goes on. Well, actually, that's not it. What it has to do with that convection. So when you're boiling soup or boiling water to boil some eggs, there's convection inside. And that's actually what gets the evolutionists to escape from Kelvin's argument. But the point is they were so sold on the old Earth that even Darwin in his 6th edition, be sure to check that out, had to basically change his views and adapt to the younger Earth concept. So they're totally wedded to that, to evolution and to millions of years. So despite the evidence, they hold to it. So, John Jolly was a pioneer in radiometric dating. He rejected it because there were different methods, give different answers, and he even suggested accelerated radio decay. And he was one of the early pioneers to use radiation to help heal people. And he rejected the method, John Jolly. And he's not even mentioned in Shapiro's index. So there you go. Do your own research. So, when we look at Hilaire Belloc, he died in 1953, and of course he's replying to H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, Things to Come. And Belloc was born in France, but died in England. And his travelogue, Path to Rome, was the best seller. And he also wrote satirical novels, and they were illustrated by G.K. Chesterton. How cool is that? And so you can read about the persecution of Belloc here. And Dr. Jerry Bergman's excellent Silencing the Darwin Skeptics. This is a 3-volume set, notice that. And the first one is Slaughter of the Dissonance. There's 3 of them. This one talks about Belloc and also talks about my good friend Norbert Smith, Norbert Gator Smith. He appeared in a BBC documentary, Smile for the Crocodile, and he got his PhD in zoology at Texas Tech. And he was a university professor in Oklahoma, and he challenged Darwinism and eventually had to leave that school and became a truck driver. All right, how about that? So get all of his books, Dr. Jerry Bergman, Silencing the Darwin Skeptics. And there's 3 volumes to that, and maybe you saw Ben Stein's movie Expelled. It's similar to those stories. So, Hilaire Belloc wrote a companion to H.G. Wells' Outline of History, and you can read that on Project Gutenberg. That's Gutenberg.org, and you can read that for free. So, Hilaire seems to accept the long ages suggested by the geologists, mainstream geologists that is, but he also pushes Aquinas. But Thomas actually needs to go into the young earth science camp. And why is that? Well, you may know Ptolemy, the famed astronomer who died around 170 AD. He said that the rotation of the signs of the zodiac would take about 36,000 years. So this is Aquinas' thought on that. Quote, the reason seems unsuitable, because if there is any movement, revolution in the sky which does not finish sooner than 36,000 years, it would follow that the universe would have to last that long, which does not seem probable. Quod non videtur probabile, unquote. So Augustine falls in the young earth camp, and of course he held to the traditional view, creation in 6 real days. So that puts him in the yes camp. There he is. Yes, young earth science. So Hilaire Belloc did not go with Aquinas all the way. So Hilaire wrote against Darwinism, but what is the opposite of Darwinism? I'm so glad you asked. The real opposite of Darwinism is biological essentialism. So I'm holding to the stasis of essential types of life, and Belloc agrees. I'm going to quote him in a second. But what are some possible, and also talking about plants in here too, the pictures make a cool cover. But what are some possible examples, other than what's on the cover here, of essential types of life, or ETLs? I'm so glad you asked that. So one is horses, nay. And another one is hydras. I'm not sure what sound a hydra makes. There's my hydra, pretty high tech, isn't it? Not sure what sound they make. And it's horses, hydras, and humans. Howdy, partner. So horses, hydras, and humans are 3 great examples of ETLs. So I'm saying they're static. Well, what did Belloc think? Here's a quote. It is true that humanly recorded historical experience covers but a very brief fraction of the total time allowed by even the shortest estimates of the past of the world. Nonetheless, it is sufficient to prove that types once achieved are permanent. No fundamental change, still less any progressive change, is apparent. During all the historical epic, fixity of type is invariable. All right, so we're both on the same page. That's quite clear. And he also applies the same aspect to the fossil record. And my quote is in my Yes blog. Just go to my site, TotalYouth.us, and then there's 2 blogs. There's Adam's Lost Dream, and then there's my Young Earth Science blog. Go to the Yes blog, look at the very latest episode. This is recorded in October of 2024 AD. And you can find that and the references and the quotes. So Belloc also talks about the rate of stratification. So back to that. So if each of these layers, like in the Grand Canyon, were formed rapidly, and there really is no extreme time gap between them, then we're talking about one great catastrophe of the past just thousands of years ago, consistent with the Eskimo legends as well as other legends from around the world that point to a global flood. So that's the most obvious conclusion from that. So H.G. Wells was born in 1866, but in the early 1800s there were a group of scholars known as the scriptural geologists, and they said the global flood was supported by both scripture and science. And I think you should check into them, the scriptural geologists. Well, even the Babylon Bee, be sure to check out their brand new movie, J Sticks, and they're on board with the young earth. So if it's good enough for the Babylon Bee, hey, I'm all for it. So be sure to like and subscribe, and we thank you so much for listening to Young Earth Today 2032. Yes, we can. Drop deep time and have a great day.